is a pain in the butt. You hit your ball in the trees and then you lip out the putt. But if you've got a little time, then come and spend it with us. 'Cause now you're listening to the Rough Cut.
Hello, and welcome down to another episode of the Rough Cut Golf Podcast. We are coming at you live-ish from Phoenix, Arizona. We are here for the Waste Management Open. We're here a little bit before time. We've got loads to talk about in this episode. I'm joined by Jacob and by Kieran. Mick is not with us over here. He's busy ferreting away at home. And we've been up to quite a bit already since we've been here. It's been a pretty intense, 3 weeks of travel. But there's a few things to talk about. We've got the Waste Management Open that we're here for this week, but then we've also had early access to the Full Swing documentary series, which is going to be going live on Netflix next week, on the 16th.
Yeah.
And we have had early access. We've watched all episodes, we've had a binge, and we are going to give you our full review. Now, just to warn you, it's almost impossible not to have spoilers within this, so if you want to go into it completely fresh next week, this might not be the episode for you. But we're not going to give you the complete ins and outs, but we are going to give you a very good guide into what you can expect. So, Jacob.
Yes.
First of all, what have we been up to so far this week?
What have we been up to? So we spent the last week or so in an Airbnb just outside of Old Town in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely spot.
Very nice. Yeah.
Private pool,
very nice.
it was really good. And we've just spent a lot of time just getting some content, filming. Been up at Whirlwind Golf Club, which we've been to the last time we were here. Me and you came last time. We had the NFL Pro Bowl stuff, and then the Waste Management again. So looking forward to going back. And yeah, it's been a really exciting week and some really good content as well.
Yeah,
A mix of stuff, a lot of playing, a lot of reviewing, and some stuff that people have been requesting for as well, which is good. So yeah, it's been good. Kieran, your first time in. Outside of New York, I suppose, is the only time you've been to
outside of
America.
New York, in the desert.
Yeah. So what have you thought?
It's been lovely. It's been lovely. Lucky enough to go on the trip on the UAE one as well. So back in the desert again.
Can't stay away.
And it's different. It's different. I was always thinking, always wanted to go to sort of Texas or Arizona and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool vibe.
No, it's been a good week so far. Have you been enjoying it? It's been all right?
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty intense. I think after the Waste Management is done, I'm going to be happy to be home for a little bit,
Sure,
just to decompress before I.
Well, you've done back
You
to
literally
back,
come
so-
back.
Yeah, before I literally come back to Arizona a week later.
So you touch on Waste Management. So I suppose unless people are fully aware, what are we actually here for?
Yeah, so we're here with Whoop, one of the main channel partners, and every year, this is the second year, on the 16th hole, the Coliseum, probably the second most famous par 3 in golf, I'd say, at this moment in time. There's one shot, closest to the pin, loads of money up for grabs for charity, and I'm one of the people taking part in that particular event amongst a whole host of actual famous people. So yeah,
How are you feeling about it?
To be honest, I feel perfectly chilled.
Yeah.
I feel perfectly relaxed. I've done it before. I've got the experience.
Yeah. Very true.
I think I know what club I'm going to have to hit. So yeah.
Where did you go the first time you hit it?
I hit the green. I'm pretty sure it rolled off just to the right. But I'm pretty sure the winner last year was Will Ahmed, who's the CEO of Whoop.
Oh right. Okay.
Massive fix.
Yeah.
How
We're
much
not
did he
quite
win?
sure how he did it, but he managed to do it.
How much did he win for
fix.
charity?
Well, 10 grand of his own money, probably.
10, literally,
10 grand of his own money.
the 10 grand that he put up, he took it straight back and then gave it to charity. So
Yeah.
Did you see him hit it? Did you saw him hit the
Oh,
shot?
yeah.
yeah,
we were there,
we're all on the same tee. Yeah.
How close did he hit it?
It's about 10 foot.
Yeah,
I don't think it was crazy close, but there's obviously about 20,000 people
I
on
was
that
gonna
hole.
say,
Yeah, it's a completely different atmosphere you'd be hitting a golf shot normally. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a remarkable thing to be part of. And if you're listening the day this should be released, I think it's going to come out first. It's Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday. This should be out.
Yeah.
So the video for that should be out on Thursday. So it won't be long before you know where Pete's hit his shot. So you'll know very quickly how good or bad.
I think it's going to be close.
I hope so
I've
too.
got a good feeling.
I'd say
You've been striking it well today.
Yeah.
As well. Over this last sort of week, you've been striking it well with your irons.
Yeah, I know, but it's not been in front of 20,000 people.
That's
it?
very,
So
very
slightly
true.
different.
Very, very true.
This situation is unprecedented, apart from once a year.
Yeah. Are you going to bring your own clubs as well?
Well, they had clubs on the tee last time, and I seemed like a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like bringing a full bag with me. So
Did you actually bring a full bag?
no.
You took like a selection of what you thought. So you kind of went pitching wedge at like 50 degree, and then maybe like a 9 just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case you weren't sure.
So I think that hole at its longest is under 170, and I think the tee we were playing from was
They
like
played it
130.
forward,
Yeah.
Well, they didn't want people whacking off the proper tees, did they? So they were going to put everyone forward.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a good job they did actually, judged by some of the other shots that were hit.
Yeah.
It was wow.
Yeah, if you didn't see, I can't remember the bloke's name, but if you didn't see last year the shank.
Is he the basketball player?
No, it was he was the Bachelor for like the Bachelor the show. That's the other one.
It's a popular TV series
in America.
Oh, okay. Right, no, I haven't seen
essentially, the Bachelor, and then there's like 20 girls that compete to kind of win his heart, essentially.
Right. Okay.
And I think he was a Bachelor for a series, and you could tell straight away he'd never played golf before, and he ran from out of nowhere wearing his big dungarees, jumped over cameramen, people stood around the tee, and then picked up a club, took one practice swing, and took about. He was digging up.
Was
a
he
hole.
barefoot as well?
Yes, he
I
was.
seem to remember
He
he was
was,
barefoot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then proceeded to stand over the ball, and not only shank it, but he toe shanked it. So it wasn't even out the hosel. Like, he just hit it out of the toe. And unfortunately, there's cameramen all the way down the side, and one of them's worn it straight in the shin.
Yeah, it was busy.
So hopefully this year it will be a little bit different.
There wasn't a single person after he took that practice swing who didn't know what was going to happen. Every single golfer on that hole just looks at each other like, oh my god, this is
not ending well.
This is
This
such
could
a
go
bad
anywhere.
idea.
Yeah.
And then just toe shanked it straight into all the cameramen. Jeez.
So hopefully not this year.
Yes. I don't know if they're going to have a more intensive vetting process, but I think the amount of people who are actually doing it this year has gone up. I'm pretty sure there's about 30
There was
people.
a lot of people last time as well.
I think it's gone up massively.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't know what it's actually going to be like. Even more carnage probably, but
Yeah.
we'll see. That video will be coming
Yes.
very, very soon. I'm
Yeah.
excited about like I said, the other stuff that we've got over here. It's been really cool. She'll keep us going for a fair few weeks.
Yeah.
However, what will not keep people going for a few weeks, most likely because they'll binge watch it, is this new series. So if you're not familiar with what is happening, I'm sure a lot of people by now would have heard of Drive to Survive, which was a Netflix series following F1 and F1 teams and racers, behind the scenes, in-depth look, access that you don't see normally.
Yeah.
And what Netflix have done, they've done a similar series to that with Netflix called Drive to Survive, which isn't right.
No,
It's
which
called
isn't.
Full
That's
Swing.
what you spoke about.
Listen, it's been a long day.
Yeah, well, we're 6:45 of recording, so it's not too late. But we've been moving around.
We've been moving about. It's been a long week, and it's been
It's been a long few days, and we have just spent like a lot of day rewatching some.
I was going to say it's been pretty intense.
So I think probably first thing to dive in, give it an overall view of this.
Yeah.
So it follows several PGA Tour players at the time, who are, I would say, relatively well known. So
a mix. Some obviously people know who they are. Some that the avid golf fan will probably know, but some people you don't get to see their story, which is kind of nice.
And the way they've broke it down, so they've picked certain players to take part in the series. So the first episode is Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. They're in it together pretty much all the way through.
Yep.
And then the second episode follows Brooks
and
Koepka and Scotty Scheffler.
Yep.
And we'll get into all the players kind of as we go through the episodes. But it's that kind of vibe where they're mostly picking two players, telling their stories, how they're getting on during the tour season, and then showing behind the scenes the stuff that you just don't see during a tournament week.
Yeah.
No, I think that's probably a good surmise of what it's like. Okay. And I think what they have done is they've identified particular tournaments through the year that they kind of use those as the base, so they see how those players have done. And as we hopefully will get onto, some of the players that they talk about win some of these said events.
Yeah. Big ones being the majors, I'd say.
Yeah.
The big ones.
They've put a few in there, and that they've clearly sort of followed them around, not just for major stuff. They have gone here and there, but yeah, it's a good overall view, I'd say, of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it would have been very tricky, obviously, when they're deciding before the season begins which players to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pick the top players and you could probably hope that they do have a win. But I think the players that they picked this year and the seasons that they had really did help make it. Because you can imagine in golf, bear in mind that, you know, there's a lot of amazing players who go a full year without winning.
Yeah.
So to actually get these people in this year when so much has happened.
Definitely.
It always seems to fall that way as well.
It's just Netflix, man.
Yeah.
Like Netflix is just
I just think they've written the script. Did you?
literally, it's literally like they've written the
It's
script.
scripted.
Like
Okay.
Drive to Survive was just so like
So
they were
scripted.
always in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly what
Yeah.
what this year is about. Like this is literally the perfect year to make a documentary about golf.
Yeah.
Like there's no doubt about that. So much going on.
Well, I think with that, let's probably dive into the first episode, and we can talk through a lot about like the structure of the episodes as well as we go, because they do follow a similar pattern, but there are some differences as the season kind of progresses as well.
Yeah.
So the first episode, it's called Frienemies.
Yes.
And that is following Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, who have been friends for a long, long time, but also compete week to week on the tour. I would say, for me, it was a fairly gentle introduction to the series.
It almost, after watching the whole series as well, it almost seemed like that it was a gentle start for the editors and the way they kind of thought how they're going to put this together.
Yeah, they were getting to grips with it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it was done well, and straight away we're into a player who wins not only an event but a major event of the year in Justin Thomas, and not something that I think this conversation could become better for the stuff later on, and we only kind of found this out when we got to the later episodes, but they don't do as good a job as we'd hoped to kind of build the pressure and the environment of winning a major tournament for JT. I don't know if you
the
felt
amount of
similar
that
way.
situation, is that what you mean?
Yeah, just like you didn't feel in it as much as you probably were hoping to with the behind the scenes access that this series is given us. However, saying that, I think as a starting episode, I think it does do a good job of setting the foundations of kind of what the baseline's going to be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's fair enough. I think because opening up an episode with those two plays is obviously good. They're both recognisable. They're both very popular.
Yeah.
But then to get JT, especially as he wins a PGA Championship, that is incredible access. That is incredible for the producers. And like I said, I don't feel it really caught the drama behind it.
Yeah. No, I think that's it.
It felt like there was something maybe a little bit missing from that first one. But as we mentioned, like later episodes very much did get us all like in the field.
Oh,
so.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my point of this is not only for the viewer as like putting a toe in the water. I think it was a toe in the water for the way that they were going to do it. And I felt that as the series got on, they kind of learned from that first point of like, this is what we need to get for the later episodes.
Yeah.
Potentially it's speculation. But
Yeah, I think the big takeaway from that episode as well, and this sort of goes throughout the whole of the season, is that I loved especially the behind the scenes access that they got of like him being in the round. So he finishes round, and then like you saw like JT go on the practice range, you saw him like all that sort of bits after the round that we don't see. We're back on the golf action.
Yeah.
I loved that bit of seeing what JT got up to after, and sort of saw how that tournament unfolded.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really good, and that's something that's a really cool, as a golf fan, I think that is a really cool like thing throughout. Like, this behind the scenes access is just unreal.
I would say the only thing about that first one which I really didn't get a sense of is I don't feel I learned anything new about those two.
No.
Everything that was in there I kind of already knew.
Yeah, that's true.
If you know they're good friends, you see that they are very close friends.
But and then also like, I mean, again, this is another thing, is that we need to think that obviously for the golf fan it's really good, but then also the new people that are coming into golf and like watching this the first time as a complete novice of not knowing who JT is, who Jordan Spieth is. Like, I think that if we look at it from a novice perspective, I think that they've done well of like showing their friendship. Because we know we know as people, as fans that they have a great friendship, and like it's in elite sports, you don't necessarily have like these big friendships in any sport, let alone golf. No, for the novice, I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah. I think as well. Obviously, this is being the first episode. You kind of get the feel of recurring people that are going to continually probably be throughout the series. We spoke about Will Buxton with the Drive to Survive as that sort of narratory role. So a couple of the guys, I've got Sean Foley. He comes in pretty much throughout. Dan Rappaport, he's in there. Amanda Renner, Brandel Chambly, he's in there a bit. And then Dylan Diether, I don't.
They bring it all together.
So they use sort of golf journalists, golf analysts, coaches, broadcasters, individuals that have been obviously on the scene throughout the year, and they kind of sort of tie it together, pull it along, give their intake of sort of golf as a general scope, but also their knowledge of the golf environment.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that I learned as well from the first episode, I don't know about you guys, but like because like obviously knowing that this is all behind the Drive Survive people and stuff like that, I kind of had that vibe in my head. It was going to be intense. It was going to be like adrenaline rush, like Drive Survive is. But just sort of remembered that it is golf, and it is that just like it is that bit slower pace. So
that's probably like a disclaimer to put out.
I was going to say, don't think it's going to be like. Don't think it's going to be like Drive Survive, because it's not, in the sense of like the structure of the episodes are, but it's not as like
and
adrenaline rush as it.
I think with that as well, like the structure, they pull interviews and conversation with these players from across the year.
Yes.
Because like I said, with Drive to Survive, one of the good things about that is all the teams and absolutely everyone is usually in the same place at the same time.
Definitely.
Like these golfers, when they're not playing a tournament, they're back home. The amount of times we saw Jupiter, Florida, and
the middle list.
Like
golf course.
I could see myself around Jupiter. I think by now.
What golf course, by the way?
All these places that they all went away to. So it's definitely not the same vibe.
No.
So I think it was a solid opening. I think that the second episode, which is called Win or Go Home, was different.
That was completely different,
because it had two completely contrasting personalities in there with Brooks Koepka and Scotty Scheffler. Wow.
Massively. Like Brooks Koepka being this, was world number one. Am I right in saying he was world number one? Mm-hmm. Just like the majors were him, and obviously they were following him around the majors. Was it and then one? I'm pretty sure.
At the time of recording.
No.
Like just.
Got to.
Yeah, got to world number one. Like he's obviously like a fierce competitor, and then you've got Scotty, who's just like.
Yeah, the contrast was like they were a smart move to kind of do that, and it was a good way of showing how particular golfers are different off the course. I will say, if you're not a Brooks fan already, you're probably not going to come away from this episode any more of a fan.
I don't particularly. He came across slightly strange.
Yeah, he's got that mentality, isn't he? He seems very hard on himself and very sort of like, I don't know what the word would be, but
I would say that throughout this entire series, we see a good contrast between different personality types. I would say that there's a lot of PGA Tour players within this episode who are absolutely 100% driven to win, as fiercely, as competitive as you will see in a sports person, which Brooks is, but he comes across not great. I think he comes across.
I've tried. I will state that I'm not the biggest Brooks fan in the world, so I tried to sort of think of it as right. If I was just hadn't heard of this bloke before, I think people, as you say, the novice, if they come across the character of Brooks Koepka, will struggle to buy into his sort of way of going about things.
Especially in the comparison of Scotty.
The comparison is ridiculous.
And that's what I mean, that brings it out so much more.
What it does, though, it really shows, because this is the moment in time as well when Scotty hadn't won on tour before.
Yes.
He'd had a really good kind of start to his PGA career, but he had not got across the line and actually making a win, getting a win. And it followed him, obviously, during the Masters, like during his match play win, and it was just like
waste management as well.
And it was all of a sudden, it's like, wow, like this guy's arrived, he will not stop winning, and then just rocketed to number one in the world during this season. And it was just that contrast of, here's a player who's obviously incredibly good, but didn't really have that belief about winning at the Masters, the major. Which I wish they would have got into a little bit more. I think that was a slight...
Yes, that was a shame.
Especially the Masters as well. That's a big episode.
But we will say we got to see some parts around Augusta National that you don't get to see.
Behind the scenes in the clubhouse.
That was cool.
Yeah.
It was nice to get that side of things, and that was one of the things once the Masters stuff came around for this series that was kind of
that was the most.
Are we going to see? Behind the curtain, are we going to see those bits that obviously we don't see in TV coverage?
Yeah, the access
you do get some of that.
It was good.
So
and I think it kind of led in really nicely as well, because right at the end of that episode when they're talking with Brooks about his form and all the rest of it, they kind of slide into the conversation. Are you going to be joining Liv?
Yeah.
And he has that little smile.
Yes.
And then that builds into the third episode, which is called Money or Legacy, which focuses predominantly on Ian Poulter.
It does, yeah. So it's
which is I think very similar to what you just said, Jake. If you go into that not a fan of Ian Poulter, I don't think you're going to come away with a different opinion.
Yeah.
It's tricky because I don't know if these guys, they've obviously signed up to this, so they have an opportunity to prepare mentally how he could sit down in front of the cameras and put on this persona of the Mr. Nice Guy and but they have all, I felt, stayed true to kind of how I would expect them to be.
Yeah, I think with Poulter it felt, certainly for the first 2/3 of that episode, that he was portraying a character. He was trying to put up a little bit of a front for me. It seemed slightly false at times. And you got behind the scenes, you got to see his family and all the rest of it, and it was nice. But I always felt it was a bit. It was just not quite being genuine.
Okay. Yeah.
Until the final third.
Yeah.
When he kind of opened up and it was it was all clear that he was going to live and.
Yeah, the natural kind of transition, like the way this episode progresses, is kind of this build up, isn't it? It's like murmurs of Liv. Then we get about 20 minutes in and it's, they now start talking to players. And then you get sort of halfway through and it's, Poulter's name's in the mix and we're following him now and he's thinking about it. And then at the end, it's, to be fair, actually, it's not even he doesn't actually, they ask him the question in front of the camera and say, are you joining Liv? And I don't think he actually says...
He smirks,
he says yes without saying yes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He says yes with his eyes.
And it's the beginning of, and this is the narrative that all of the other players that they speak to, Dustin, Brooks, they don't speak to Mito and Joaquin about it, actually.
No,
because that was very late. That was later on.
Yeah.
I suppose they came, So all the guys that were within the season who joined Liv say the same thing, and it's the same thing. They say it's a family decision. It's looking after my family for the future. Blah 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 blah. So it's never the kind of they're not going to say it's the money, or they're not going to say one way or the other, but it's a business decision essentially.
Poulter takes the big brunt.
He does,
all of the Liv antics and all that.
I don't know if he would have been aware that his episode was going to be spun that way, but that was the Liv dominant episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Of it stirring, and then he kind of fronted it up in front of the cameras and was asked the questions of what you think about it. Kind of thing.
Which was fair enough. He was kind of made that during the episode, and he didn't really shy away from it. That's what I mean. The final third of the episode he actually kind of comes across and he explains his reasons for going and what it means.
Yeah.
And I think that was much better during the end. And it should be said that one thing that certainly I was a little bit worried about before this came out was that it was going to be just a PR piece for players or for the PGA Tour. And it's not.
No, it's not.
No, they
and it's really
well.
not.
And to say we do go to live events. They do show you the live events. It's not a case of once they're gone, they don't follow them, because that's one of the points that we spoke about was, do they follow Poulter because they pick Poulter to start with for the PGA Tour stuff, and then as soon as he leaves, they leave them alone? That's not the case. They go with them to the live events. They film them there, so it's good that was done as well.
I really like the way that throughout the years, throughout the season, it's the players are chatting who's going, who's not. the rumours kind of like start to progress as the year goes on, and that growing like tension between players who stay on the PGA Tour and the players who go, it becomes much more palpable and much more kind of juicy, especially at the end. Crikey,
it does build, doesn't it?
So yeah, I was a bit so on that one. I think for me, the fourth episode with Imposter Syndrome with Joel Damon, for me, this is where it really starts.
It starts to
kick
find
off.
itself,
It starts to get really good from this.
I really enjoyed this one. Again, like we might as well start in the same place. If you don't know Joel Damon or you're not really aware of him, you will probably leave this episode being a big fan.
I think he's going to gain a lot of fans from this. It's a very honest episode. It's a very open episode, and it's also an episode that follows a completely different mentality to the previous like 4 guys that you've had. You know, with JT and Spieth, they believe they are the best players in the world. Scotty and Brooks. Poulter, to a certain extent, has an arrogance that he believes that he can still compete at the highest level. Joel Damon, I think like the coming up end of the third episode, it kind of finishes as like, oh, someone needs to be the 70th best player in the world, so why not me? And he's completely happy with that. It's a fun episode, and again, if you don't know Joel Damon, you will learn his character a lot more.
Absolutely.
And I think people, if they saw the list of episodes, they wouldn't have put a circle around this one.
No.
And I think with this
it's one to look forward to.
This episode as well, it's just literally following him as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much focused.
Yeah, Max Homer pops in as a friend
there's a few,
comments, but they do use him as the strong base. Yeah.
Basically, the comments are saying that like he has the potential to be one of the best players in the world, but like he just genuinely doesn't believe it. He just has a real belief that.
Yeah, they use his caddy as well, don't they? A lot.
His caddy is, so that's his like best friend as well. So and some of the obviously because all these players are mic'd up as well during it, which I think is great as well. And like hearing some of the stuff that they say to each other is just like it's just so funny.
Throughout the series, if you're not a fan of foul language and you think that players don't swear, wow, like it is intensely foul.
Tour players are more foul mouthed than
unbelievable
people on the local.
I heard things I never heard before during this season. But I think with like his caddy and with his wife, with like the struggles he's had in the background as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So his mother dying of cancer, and then his struggles with cancer as well, and coming back, and with. I think this episode really like pulled a focus to that mid-range tour pro.
Yeah, definitely. And
you know, it's not just those uber kind of alphas on tour that are always playing. You know, there's a level of guys below them, who certainly perceive themselves below them, who they're not going to be winning every week, but they've got a chance if they have that self-belief in themselves. Yeah,
even to see things like getting into the qualifying of the majors.
That was
fantastic.
Was
so cool.
That was good.
That was one of my favourite bits of the whole season.
Yeah,
when he was qualifying for the US.
Qualifying for the US, like.
So he had to go through the qualifying process for the US Open. He hadn't qualified automatically, and it was a 2-round day, wasn't it? And he shot whatever he shot in the first day, and then not a very good score, 1 over or something like that.
Well, it was in the morning and the afternoon.
So it was a 36-hole thing.
And then went and had some lunch, and with lunch had a White Claw and
bombed a few bevies, and then
went out and
shot the lights out.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really cool look. And like I said, I think he came across really well, and there's no doubt that I will now be rooting for him.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's what I mean. Like, so many people are going to watch this episode. And not necessarily, he won't become your favourite player, but you're certainly going to be looking out for him and rooting for him.
And it was nice as well how they showed him, after he qualified for the US Open, he was right up there.
Yeah.
Well, he was right up there with a chance to win.
Yeah. Final group, was he? Was he final group? I'm pretty sure.
Maybe going into the third day.
Going into the third day, because he was up there.
And then, on the last day, obviously, he didn't win. But the person who did win, who was featured a little bit in Joel Damon's episode, Matt Fitzpatrick, that was what the whole 5th episode was about, which is titled American Dreams. It's following Fitzpatrick and Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
Now, for me,
you enjoyed this episode.
This was probably the best one.
You enjoyed
it. It was my favourite as well.
I would say this was the best episode for building drama and making you feel some emotion over a win.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think
I
this
was crying by the end of it.
Oh, honestly,
Literally,
yeah,
this was the start.
From this episode onwards, it does pull at your heartstrings a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
You do
This
get a bit.
episode was I cried at this episode.
This got us this one. Like
Yeah.
three grown men crying in a
Over
hotel
a bloke
room
winning.
over a bloke winning a golf tournament. But I think obviously it was both Matt Fitzpatrick and Dustin Johnson. By this point, Dustin Johnson had committed to live.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit about his decision making. And to be fair and to be honest, I actually warmed to DJ a little bit over this episode, just simply because he wasn't trying to deflect or be like disingenuous about why he was going to live.
Yeah.
He literally says, "Listen, I don't play as many events,
Yeah.
and I get paid more money."
Yeah,
for it.
he was so honest with his
Yeah.
review of like he doesn't legacy or anything like that isn't really a big thing for him.
Well, he already
It's-
feels
like he's
Yeah, he
done
feels
that.
like
he's already got his legs.
100%. And
I
he's-
think
yeah.
when the Live guys started going just generally away from this series, like that was probably the kind of thing that a lot of people maybe found irritating was the lack of maybe just fronting up of this is why I'm
They're
doing
giving
it.
me lots of money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whereas before it was the whole growing the game thing and all that kind of stuff. Whereas DJ did just sit in front of the cameras and was like, look, it's my job.
Yeah.
I'm going to get paid more and I don't have to go into the office as many times as I'd used to.
Yeah.
If any, like, who wouldn't take that? That's
For
kind of his
family,
mentality of what he would do.
I would say that's probably his mentality of where he's at the game as well. You know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's won a lot of money on tour. He's got his majors, and what is going to be next for him? Is he going to still be wanting to be out there grinding against these guys? I don't know.
There was one thing that I picked up that he said, and I don't know again because they followed them throughout the season, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly the point when this is said. But they were sat around the dinner table, and he makes a comment about, "I've just got to put 4 good rounds together," and this is whilst he was talking about Live. And I wasn't sure if it was like
He doesn't know.
Wasn't
It's
sure
only
that it
holes,
was only
yeah.
looking
It
for
wouldn't
holes.
surprise me if he didn't know.
Just
Or-
turned up ready to play 4
Literally,
rounds. Yeah.
literally.
I thought that was quite funny, but yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting look, and he just came across as like who you think he is, just super chilled.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Whereas compared to Matt, like,
Wow.
well, finding out about his, he is a statistician, isn't he?
His
He is
approach to analytics is scary.
It is, yeah.
So a lot of people might know this who are like interested in golf, but Matt Fitzpatrick has literally written down every shot
Yep.
he has ever hit since he was an amateur.
Yeah, and just to like reinforce that doesn't mean on a golf course playing a
on the
tournament.
range.
On the
That's
range,
on the range,
on the
as well.
range, everything.
Everything. So his data accumulation over the past decade is frightening.
Yeah.
And he gets
yeah.
all his books out, he shows all these stats. And it is just a completely different level of understanding of his own game. But like he was saying during the episode, he has gone on this journey of going through all these stats. He knew from them he needed to improve his distance.
Yep.
And he did that. And obviously this episode culminates in this whole journey of him winning the US Open at the Country Club
Yeah,
at
and
Brookline.
it started off at the PGA as well, didn't it? It started off how he
Yeah.
was in contention,
Yeah.
and I actually forgot that he was in contention on that last day, and seeing him kind of have a really bad final round, didn't he? He actually had a really bad final round, and then see that whole contrast of then going to the US Open and just smashing it, didn't he? And then, that last shot was...
This was also the first time they kind of really drew in family as well. Got more from family, got more from
Mum,
friends.
his dad, his brother Alex.
Yeah.
They toyed with it for the first 4, but then this one was like they really used that as like, and that's probably where we started to get a bit emotional.
And also showing the pressure of that final round as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
how we were saying about how the master, like Scotty Scheffler's episode, wasn't done particularly well in terms of like building the pressure, but this episode, like at times, like I felt my my hairs.
You were in it, weren't
even
you?
though I knew what was happening. Like
You said something which I think is exactly what you kind of want from when you're trying to put people in that position. Is you knew what was going to happen, but you still thought something different was going to happen.
I knew if you watch that US Open, everyone knows what happened.
Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, like I felt like I was reliving it,
Yeah.
like in a much more intimate way.
Yes.
Um,
And that's what we
up, and
that's
it was-
what we wanted from
Absolutely.
all of this.
and I know from obviously that the Scotty comparison, it does need to be said. Excuse me, that with Matt, obviously came down to the last hole, that incredible shot.
Yeah.
And with Scotty, he kind of dominated
He just had it, didn't he?
Apart from that chip in, like so. Yeah. I think with this was for me the best use of footage and like building that sense of anticipation, and he was down and then he was back and then he hit these shots and everyone's emotional and like it all drew together, and then just at the end, just like the simple things of like when he gets the trophy and he goes back into the locker room and he's like banging it off things.
That was good.
And he goes into like his little speeches after he doesn't make a speech because he can't.
Yeah, he's just
Billy did it, didn't he? And even like on that last as well, on that 18th second shot, like you got the commentary of that, and the commentary wasn't. I seem to remember
they just like I don't know. It's sort of they do such a good job in this one with using their footage, as Pete said, but like you felt you were in it. Whereas before it was more, you felt a lot more third person, a lot more on the outside. Whereas this, they used their cameras and they had their own footage and their own audio that they'd captured apart from using the TV stuff, that they were really involved with what was going on.
Definitely.
Obviously, we've had the advanced screening. The only thing I wonder if they change is like the weird audio.
I was gonna mention.
If you're watching this series, try and watch out because there's so many like iron shots that have a driver sound and driver shots that have an iron sound.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I know.
It's a funny. Weird. You'd thought that there was stuff that people would definitely pick up on.
I think if you're an editor, though, you're getting that together and you're not like a golfer potentially.
You're not thinking
like
about
potentially,
it.
Just golf shot sound. Okay, stick that in there. That'll do.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe we need to write in and let them know.
Yeah, saw the whole sound effect going quite a lot as well. I don't know if you noticed that.
Well, ball falling in.
Ball falling in a lot.
But it was for me probably my favourite episode.
Yeah,
I think
top three, top two, definitely.
Two of them.
Episode 6.
And this was an interesting one because we talk about like the drama of building up to everything, and like a culmination in a single win. The next episode, which is Don't Get Bitter, Get Better, that was following Tony Finau and Colin Morikawa.
Yeah.
Fantastic players.
Yeah.
I do feel Colin kind of got shoved to the side a little bit in this episode.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't particularly have the best of seasons, did he, in terms of like compared to his standards?
I think neither did Tony until the end of this episode.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was. I thought Tony was obviously the much more approachable kind of player in this respect. I think with Colin, obviously very, very incredible start to his career, sees himself in that category of alpha competitor, wants to be really number one in the world.
Yep.
Where he kind of pivots to Tony, who is, I'm changing this year because I've got my whole family following me around.
Yeah.
Supporting his wife who's just lost her father. And it's kind of like, it's a very different vibe, very, very emotional. Like I didn't realise Tony was like such an emotional guy.
Cried even more than the last episode for me. Like that was a.
I didn't quite get me quite as much. I must admit, maybe I was emotionally worn out from.
I was going to say we did watch them all back to back. Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's an emotional guy, isn't he? He does cry quite a lot, but he also, again, if you know the character of Tony Finau, you know how loved he is generally on the tour. And that just comes through even more.
Comes across very strong.
It focuses a lot on his struggles, I suppose, to kind of balance being a top 20 player in the world, be a husband, be a father, and how he kind of blends all of that together. And it's an interesting scope, I suppose. It's sort of the first time that, or a much more delved look into life as a PGA pro with a family. Poulter's episode, it does kind of come across, but it doesn't seem like a struggle, so to speak. He's been with them out in America forever, and they sort of do what they do, and it's fine. Whereas the Finau family, with the losses of family,
I was going to say that they followed each other as well. Like wherever Tony went, I'm pretty sure like the whole family went, which was which is really cool. And like seeing where Tony came from, and like seeing his sort of like he came from a relatively poor family.
Yeah.
So hopefully, some of these sort of this season as well can inspire people that if you are watching from a novice perspective and getting into golf, like you don't need money and stuff like that. Like you can get into it. So it was really cool to see that and the fight that he had.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an episode of a lot of different emotions, I suppose. It's also an episode I felt of like very different halves, and as you say, I felt Colin didn't really appear for the second half, but that was kind of in when Finau was having that excellent run at the end of the year, where he won the 3M and then continued on. And they do have that footage as well. You know, that's what I was saying before. It's not just the majors; they have gone into
because that's the thing with Colin. Colin didn't really have a good year, so we followed him like going back to the Open, handing back the trophy.
Yeah, that was cool.
That weird like outfit.
Adidas meeting.
That was
a bit odd.
Yeah,
right?
that was weird. Wasn't it?
I don't really know what was going on there.
Yeah.
But then when it got to the end, and then Tony actually started won those events back to back. That felt a bit more likely to me because I really don't feel there was that much golf in it apart from that bit. So I think it was interesting. It'd be interesting to see how people kind of react to that. It also got us our first glimpses of St Andrews as well, which
it was.
We were saying that
we were like waiting.
We were like nothing's happened yet.
Yeah,
no St Andrews yet.
So that started to get quite excited. I think it got us excited about St Andrews. We know the Open's coming. We know Rory's coming. It was weird
because we were like saying it, and then literally the next slide was St Andrews.
Yeah.
So
it was also the first time we realised how you 100% could have been in this.
Yes.
Yeah,
like you so could have been in this.
When they got to a few places, and I was like, I kind of know why
they asked for.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I was absolutely gutted.
Yeah.
The next episode title is Golf is Hard, and wow, talk about again like the emotional roller coaster that some of these players go through. So this was following Mito Pereira and Sahith Theegala.
Yeah.
And I mean, you basically got two rookies on the PGA Tour. You got Mito losing out on the US PGA Championship in the most heartbreaking fashion. Sahith not getting over the line at the Waste Management, again in an absolutely gutting manner.
Yeah.
So it just it kind of documents the journey of what it takes to be a rookie, to get on tour, and how difficult it is when you're competing against like some of the very best players in the world. Yeah. The Mito one was painful. It was painful to watch.
It wasn't nice to rewatch it again. I thought if you compare it to the next episode coming on, you see Rory at the Open, and you even say Sahith losing at the Waste Management. His reaction actually to not winning a major was actually not as. He was quite composed, to be fair. A person in that situation.
He doesn't strike me as someone that is particularly emotional, though, did he? No. I got that vibe that he isn't, So Theegala is a much more emotional guy.
I think it was slightly different as well, though, because on this episode, they follow Mito and they follow Sahith very closely.
Yes. Definitely.
They are like in their house.
Yes, yeah.
They are right there, kind of talking to the families. It was interesting how
Sahith's dad was super cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah, like pretty much all the parents who like him. This was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was interesting how you had the house kind of footage with Mito, and how literally everyone in that house is now a live player.
Yeah. Yes, it was
Joaquin and Carlos Ortiz.
That was fairly interesting.
Yeah. This was probably also at the time. Sorry, man.
No, go ahead.
Probably at the time that they are filming that. I don't think they were live players at the time.
I don't think so.
Of course, no. I think it's like, and to your point of, they were saying a lot of things about the PGA Tour and about legacy and winning majors and all that kind of stuff, which I kind of, it's stuff that I'd expect them to say, but it also made me kind of think their decision to join Live was a bit more money orientated. I don't know, just sort of
100%.
I think we can all probably park that argument now and just say, listen, anyone who's gone to join Live is obviously because they're getting paid a lot of money.
Before they knew about this decision, the stuff they say in this episode, or at least Mito does, obviously not, so you don't really get much from Joaquin Neiman, but with Mito in particular, he says some things about wanting to win on the PGA Tour, and his wife even the same. My dream for him is to win on the PGA Tour and win and win and win and win and win. The stuff like I feel like you just wouldn't say if you didn't believe it to then
if you didn't
go
believe
to
Live.
Live.
Stay the long term, yeah.
So
they didn't make any reference that they'd gone to Live as well.
No,
no.
So
because that's all come like pretty late, really.
Yeah.
After all the cutting of the episode would have been done.
Yeah.
So
it was good.
it was interesting, and like it was tough to watch at times actually, because it was such a contrast as well between let's say, the Matt Fitzpatrick one, which was behind the scenes, the agony of loss as far as like the USPGA to the ecstasy and the
winning.
glory of
Yeah.
the US.
Yeah.
And then you had these guys who was just, they were trying so hard and it just got taken away, well, not taken away from them, but they just lost
get
it
over
at
the
the
line.
last. And it was like, oh, man.
Yeah,
It was just so,
both of them, didn't they?
just felt so gutted for them.
I think I'll be certainly looking at Thigala a lot more this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
I was
After,
really,
after that Waste Management week, he got a lot of traction just
Yeah,
generally
yeah.
before this series.
yeah,
so
I found him a really cool guy.
best
Like,
eyebrows on tour as well.
Best eyebrows on tour, like, yeah, cool guy.
Yeah.
And he's gonna do it. I think he's gonna have a good season this year.
Hopefully, yeah.
And talking about the agony of loss,
Yeah.
the final episode that it has all led to this is the title, and this is where Rory takes.
This is Rory.
This is
Centre
all
stage.
Rory.
Yeah.
Pretty much all Rory. Talks about his season, really kind of puts him in this position of, not well, they don't do it, but what he is pretty much a spokesman now for the PGA Tour. He is, as well as Tiger, the most recognisable needle mover
Yeah.
on the PGA Tour, and certainly the most articulate about extolling its virtues to players, trying to warn them about going to live.
Yep.
And throughout this episode, we know that it's building up to St Andrews. Like you were saying, I think with that one, that was one where they didn't quite get the emotional turmoil of losing.
No.
Because he was devastated.
Yeah.
Of the Open.
You're the
Yeah.
Open,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you didn't quite get that. You obviously saw he was disappointed, but it was like, it almost
It
felt...
didn't follow him further, did
No,
it? Like, you
no,
didn't
it-
see the reaction.
yeah.
you had him walking off the last green up some stairs, and that was it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
came to him like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I was surprised at that. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to see a little bit more of that, but
And it was a bit like, it was just,
Yeah.
could have had a bit more.
and then literally after that 2 weeks later, it's him at a clinic, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like-
Oh, yeah.
it just suddenly changes, like all that emotion.
But I think again, like it's as you say, the not necessarily full swing, but you know what has happened this year with Rory becoming the spokesperson of the PGA Tour. This is something that he's taken upon himself,
Yeah.
and it follows him kind of doing that role,
Going into that role, yeah.
Not just on the golf course, what he does off the golf course as well. Like you say, he goes doing that golf clinic with kids, and you know it kind of represents Rory in what a lot of people probably believe him to be, which is an unbelievable golfer, can win as maybe the best player on his day, but the emotional side of what he's having to go through with, you know, leading the PGA Tour in a
and
sense.
all of the players say it as well. Like all of the players are.
Oh, his how much respect he has
yeah,
on
like
tour.
all the players. That's one thing you get from it is that you know everyone respects Tiger on the tour, but then everyone respects Rory on the tour.
Yeah.
So they're-
He's the go-to guy now.
definitely.
And it's an interesting one with Rory as it goes after the Open, because you know that it's building up to him winning the Tour Champs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that same thing. It's kind of the agony of defeat to the ecstasy of victory. It doesn't quite have the same impact, maybe because he's done it before. But it was a nice way to kind of like round out his arc.
Yeah.
And I think he was probably by the end of that episode, I think he was probably one of the most open players during the series. Like the way
100%.
he was talking.
When he was sat in front of the camera and they were asking questions, or even he was just talking about it, he definitely laid a lot more on the table.
He's done that the whole year.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
the
been
whole,
known.
the
Yeah,
whole,
yeah.
He also laid it on Phil when he was laying on that massage
Yeah,
table.
He did,
Wow.
yeah. So there was a couple of points through this where this is really kind of, and they do use the Smith potential going to live at the Open and Rory. They do kind of build up a little bit of a live versus PGA in this episode.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, they eventually get to the Tour Championship, and there are comments in the dressing rooms about the kind of there's this sort of anger towards some certain players that you get.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Rory lays into, well, not lays into, but like
They're just talking about
there's a definite antipathy towards Reed and Mickelson. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Which was eye-opening, and I'm glad they kept it in, because that is one of
It's
the things.
transparent, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
just how it is. That's clearly what it's been like on tour. And there was another point that I found just as interesting was after they kind of went into the PGA player only meeting that they had in Wilmington for the BMW, and there was a conversation that Rory was having with one of the PGA officials about how some of these guys who are on the PGA Tour, and they're not quite happy with the decision of these 12 flagship events, and they're not quite happy they have to play them all and all this. Even within the PGA Tour, there was a bit of some of the guys not quite comfortable with the way it's gone.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of just builds into this whole, there was no PGA Live sort of propaganda of any of this. It was presented, I thought, in a pretty good way all the way through. Even with Rory's episode, because Rory's episode obviously could be very dominant in kind of this battle, which it was, but there was no side taking, I felt.
Anyway. Just at the end, I mean, you saw like that whole thing with the commissioner and everything like that. What's his name? The guy?
Jay Monahan.
Jay Monahan, and you saw that whole thing. That was quite good as well.
Which bit was that?
Right at the end, where he was like, that they were setting out all those things.
Oh, I see.
And
like they were talking
when he
about
won the
it,
tour championships, he kind of he said how like loyal and how as a role model Rory
for the
is.
PGA Tour.
So
I mean, I think it became quite obvious though that as far as like certainly Jay Monahan's concerned, having Rory on side is massive.
Massive. Yeah.
Like he needs players like that to stand up for the virtues of the PGA Tour, and obviously Rory's in a great position to do it. He is one of those players who wants to leave that legacy. He spoke all the way through this about wanting to leave that, about passing the baton on to the next generation when it comes time. So I thought that was interesting. I thought Rory came across really well. I don't personally think I learned anything different about him, but it just really confirmed a lot of what most people know.
He's just professional. He's just such a professional guy, isn't he?
A lot of gym shots, weren't there?
Yeah, a lot of gym shots. Yeah,
Mind you saying that something which did come across throughout all of this is literally every single PGA Tour player's in the gym.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah, it's really changed in that respect.
Even the guy
Joel.
that you would, even the guy you would think would, say exactly, Joel Damon,
Joel
someone
was-
who's like, I'm not really that arse kind of mentality, but he's still in the gym.
And you see
he's
him in the
still
gym
working.
just like really doesn't want to be there, but he knows he needs to be there to keep up with the guys.
That's a good point, yeah. As a general overview of just not even looking at individual players, just actually what tour life is like and what these athletes have to do to win on the tour.
Yeah, and
every one of them.
Yeah, and again for the novice, like it shows that it's not just an old man sport now. Like, it is they're athletes. They're all athletes.
I mean, saying that, this is probably the big question of the overall series, really. So saying golf is not an all-man sport, is this kind of series going to get more fans invested in the game who aren't already golfers, or is this just going to really interest golf fans?
That's going to be the
that's the whole thing of why this has been made. You know what I mean? Like that.
Do you think it's been done well enough to bring people in?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because like I said before, like I think that from a personal perspective, like the fan base of it, I think that it might not necessarily get everyone playing it because not everyone has that sort of access, but I think in terms of like the fans, like you get involved in people like Scotty Scheffler, like Justin Thomas, all these people that come across well, and Tony Finau, who come across well and can relate in some aspects as well. Like you see a lot of their behind the scenes stuff, particularly Tony, I'd say, and hopefully you can see that a lot of like the fan base is going to get bigger.
So you feel that people who aren't fans of golf already, not even if they don't pick up a club off this, will become they'll watch more and become a bit more involved in golf either way.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And like just going off going off Drive to Survive and going off the new series as well, Breakpoint. I think that's going to get a lot of people into tennis. I think that F1 Drive to Survive has already done wonders for that. So I really do think with how it's gone in depth of the game and how it's gone in depth with the players, that it is gonna, they are gonna look at it. That's just my perspective.
Yeah.
Of it.
I'm not 100% there on it. As far as I think, this is going to be a really cool series for people who already like golf and who are already invested. And one of the problems is, I think with Drive to Survive, it's very focused on drivers. There's a much more limited number of drivers. We're talking the PGA Tour. There's 130 golfers there, and then plus the invites and everything else.
You're right.
So there's a bigger pool of players there. Also, with Drive to Survive, I think the product, as far as TV is concerned, is better on the other side. I think watching a Formula One race, it's a lot easier to be a fan of that.
Definitely right. Because you can watch it and it's over in 2 hours, sort of thing. I know what you mean.
That's going to be the transition of someone could watch this, and I don't think they've done a bad job in making people kind of watch it and think there is some excitement to golf where there can be. But then once they've watched this, are they going to go and sit and watch 4 days? That's where I struggle to see. Does it translate across? And that's not Full Swing's fault. That's obviously just the product of golf in general. Like, it's something that people do find. Some people will find boring. Some people, if you're an avid golf fan, as the people probably watching this and who are going to watch Full Swing, you are going to enjoy this.
Yeah,
and that is the bottom line essentially. If you like golf, this is a fun thing to watch.
Yeah.
The hope is that people who aren't fans are going to watch this and then continue to go. You know, maybe if they don't go and watch it, maybe that isn't necessarily the good thing. Maybe it is just, it looks fun to play, and they do go play it, and then once they start playing, then they'll start to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, how that kind of transgresses is going to be. We're not going to know straight away.
No.
But maybe I need to just sit some of my non-golf friends in front of it and just sort of like...
Listen, that's going to be the test.
Yeah.
The test is going to be when it actually drops on Netflix, who are the people who are going to watch it? Is it going to appeal to non-golf fans or golf people who are interested in the game but might not have necessarily actually thought about kind of watching it?
Yeah.
That's going to be the key. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure that the transition will work. I think it's more likely that people who watch the first season can have a dabble in golf, but they'll probably watch the second season.
Okay.
Like, they'll probably be more invested in the second season of Drive to Survive because it packages everything in a much shorter chunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I don't really know, like Drive to Survive, you know, we are saying that it has brought more fans to the sport, and I'm sure there's some kind of metric to that. But, like, how do you even measure? Like, how do you measure that people who watch a documentary like Full Swing then go on to get into golf? Is it something that's
it's word of mouth, I suppose, for Drive to Survive. Like, a lot of people are just more openly, I am now a fan, and they will say because of I've watched Drive to Survive.
But looking at like the golf community on the online, so like looking at sorry, I lost train for that. Looking at YouTube, you know, like us, for example, are we going to see any influx in new subscribers? Are we going to see an influx in new, like, as a community of the golf?
Just
like,
golf in general, yeah.
Just golf in general. Like, is anything, you know, are we going to get more eyeballs onto our stuff?
For our benefit. we hope so.
There's definitely, you know, but like those sort of things of like, people might be looking at like how to set up the driver, you know what I mean? Like, it'll be interesting to see, and that might be a metric that we can look at, is that how, what are the type of the videos that people are watching? So it might be that people are looking at, you know, how to swing the golf club, you know, simple as that, because they're getting into it, because they want to, you know, get involved in it. So there are probably some metrics that we could have a look at and see if there's any sort of change. Because, you know, if people are looking at, you know, getting into golf or anything like that, they're probably going to go on YouTube, you know what I mean? So, and, you know, being in the situation we're likely to be one of the top videos that we're going to see, or the top channels that we're going to see. So, for us, like, we might be able to see anything like that, but also like driving ranges might be able to see that they're getting busier. So just seeing those sort of things, because you can't. That's the thing with golf, is that you can't just. It's not like football where you can put on a pair of shin pads and get on a football pitch. You have to play. You have to practice. You have to get to the point where you can hit the golf ball at least somewhat straight. You know what I mean? Even though we don't do it all the time. Exactly right. Exactly right. No, so it's going to be interesting. Golf is different to some of the sports. You know, it's not as accessible. It's not as easy just to start out. But I'm excited. I'm excited as a golf fan to see where this goes for the community and for the game of golf. And that's what Rory and all that, you know, that's what they advocate as well, is that they want to grow the game. And I think that this is a great way to grow the game. Get a Netflix documentary out get a documentary out about golf on the biggest streaming platform in the world. Like, it's, you know what I mean?
It's not
I don't think it's
going to be a bad thing.
I don't think it's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but I'm excited for you guys to watch it anyway. That's kind of like the main. That's you guys listening and watching. That's the main real takeaway. So 16th of Feb. Stay tuned.
Yeah, not far now.
If you have a Netflix account, but don't worry, I'm sure.
I was going to say,
I'm sure you can get someone's password.
Yeah.
So I just want to say a big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. It looks like Kieran's got something else.
Well, I
to
was
say.
just going to say we've got no guest the player this week because obviously Mick's not here. So we're going to leave it that we're not going to have a guest the player this week because he's on the battle, he's on the return to get his tally back up. But yeah, so if you were waiting for the end of the podcast, then it's not going to.
Sorry for waiting this long.
Sorry for waiting this long.
Sorry,
of all of us
everybody.
talking about this, talking about the full swing.
Oh,
We could do a quick one. My name is Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, literally. I'm Northern Irish. But yeah, he'll be back next week.
yeah, cool. So guys, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and also give us a follow on your favourite podcast provider. I'll see you next week. We'll have a lot of chat about me shanking it on the
Hopefully
16th
not.
of Waste Management.
Hopefully not.
Smashing a few cameras. Right. All right, guys. See you next time.